Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Level Up Next, where we dive into upcoming events in our educational live series. Level Ups are here to help you power up how you build with Twilio. We'll dive into product features and concepts and talk about best practices and gotchas for integrating new technology into your Twilio apps. The next event we're here to talk about today is Level Up with Generative AI. Elevate your communication channels. Mark your calendars for December 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Register to join us and learn how to work AI into your communication channels with a festive holiday spin. And now think of what you're currently tuned into as a sneak peek, designed to whet your palate, an amuse-bouche, if you will. It's a level up next. Get it? Like a portmanteau. It's a glimpse of what's in store for next week, and we're so glad you're all here. And at this point, you might be a little confused and ask yourself, where's Craig? Doesn't he normally host these things? Well, Craig is taking a little break this time around, and the amazing Emily Shenfield will be hosting this next level up. But since you all got to hear a little about me last month on the Startup Next, we've decided to flip the script. Instead of Emily, the host, interviewing me, the guest, I'm going to interview Emily. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Emily up today for our chat. If anyone has seen the developer keynote at Signal, Emily led that whole project. She helped create all that awesome content, including the barn burner, which was my first big appearance with Twilio. So I'm really grateful. It's truly an honor to have you up here, Emily. And just want to start with a softball question. How was your Thanksgiving?
Well, hey, Alex. First of all, thank you so much for flipping the script, like you said. I appreciate. It's nice this is a very easy first host job to be interviewed. Also, if you haven't seen the developer keynote, you can go watch it on the Twilio YouTube channel. So please check it out. Alex does some wacky stuff with robots. But yeah, my Thanksgiving was great. I can't believe it's been a week. My husband and I hosted our family here at our house, and it was like for the first time, so it was like a little hectic, a little, wow, but it was fun.
Nice. And our next level up is about AI. So can you share something fun that you've been building with AI recently?
Yeah, and I think you already know this kind of ties into your question about Thanksgiving, but I did have this sort of brainwave a couple weeks ago. We didn't cook everything for Thanksgiving this year, but we did the turkey. We did like a lot of the big elements, and I love planning and especially like cooking planning. I don't know, that's a weird thing to say, but I love that. And I was like, okay, what if I use AI to help me plan this year? So I built like a little using ChatGPT. I built like a little Thanksgiving planner support bot that basically I gave it all the recipes that I was working with. And I said, help me plan, first of all, a shopping list. I need to know what to get for all these recipes. And then give me, I think the way I phrased it was like, give me a 5-day plan, sort of like sequenced of all the tasks I need to do leading up to Thanksgiving dinner at 3 p.m. on Thursday or whatever. It went okay. I think it did. I think if I'd, cared more, I might have dug in a little more, but I was sort of like, I like planning anyway. But it did pretty good. It gave me like some things I could do ahead of time. Struggled a little bit with like, oh, you can make the rolls and store them. That piece was a little bit ambiguous, but yeah, it was very cool. It was kind of a fun little Thanksgiving task.
I love that. I love to cook too, and have learned to start 3 to 5 days early figuring out what to do, because there's always something that needs to brine or marinate so that's awesome that you used AI to do that, and I'm glad that it helped for Thanksgiving. So Emily, you've been working on the developer keynotes and barn burners for a few Signals now. For those who don't know, the barn burner is a live demo we do using Twilio as part of our annual Signal conference. Is there one live demo that stands out for you for some reason that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, that's a great question. There have been so many good live demos over the years. I love this job because I think there's so much you can demo with Twilio. It's like, what better to demo than communications? It's so interactive and so easy to like communicate the magic, I think. But one demo that sticks out, especially in the current sort of moment, we'll say, and in this context of talking about generative AI and how we're working with it. In 2020, actually, at Signal 2020, which was our a virtual Signal, we had pivoted to do the virtual thing, and we were thinking about how to make a big splash during the barn burner, as you said, Alex, the kind of like live, flashy, fun demo that we do during the keynote. And you may not recall this, but in 2020, GPT-3 was kind of new and hot. It had just come out, and people were like, it was the early days of talking about OpenAI. And so before the big hype wave, we actually built a demo with GPT-3 where we allowed attendees, or we asked attendees to like, I think it was they could text in and say like, build me a Twilio app that X that does something, and then we use GPT-3 to generate valid TWIML, which is our markup language that allows us to build voice apps or build voice or messaging apps. And it worked pretty well. Like given how, given the like sort of order of magnitude increase in quality between 3 and 4, I was like pretty impressed. So you could say like, build me a Hello World Twilio app, and it would respond with valid TWIML. It's like, a response tag and then a say tag and hello world, and it worked, and it was fun to see what it came up with.
Was fine tuning a thing back then, or did you just kind of like throw it at the vanilla GPT and it did its thing?
I think at the time, this was before we were all AI experts. So I think at the time it was really, we were just like, well, let's just see what happens. And we threw it at the vanilla model.
Wow, that's super cool. It's crazy to think how long this stuff's been around, because we really think about like the last year since ChatGPT was launched being like that time, but this stuff's been around for a while. So it's cool to see that you've been playing with it for a while too. But Emily, if I'm correct, you started your career in theater. You have a theater background, right? Can you share with us a bit about your journey from theater to working in tech? Like, how did you get from the stage to the IDE?
I love that. What a nice turn of phrase. Yeah, indeed. I thought I was going to be an actor. I was very excited about. I still love being on stage. Hey. And I studied acting in college. I did my undergraduate degree in theater, and I tell people all the time, like, I think it was such a valuable education in sort of how to be human. It was a lot about listening and about communicating. Um, Now, that being said, by the time I graduated, I sort of realized, like, oh, this is going to be a really difficult career that is going to involve a lot of rejection. I think that's a big thing about being an actor. Like, your job is basically to audition and to get rejected in many cases. So I knew at that time I think I was self-aware enough to recognize that wasn't going to be the right sort of next step for me right after college. And I grew up in Silicon Valley, and so I had been around tech a long time. And I think I came from that place of privilege of kind of understanding that what careers were possible in tech. And so after I graduated, I actually went and taught English for a while in South Korea. I lived in South Korea for a couple of years. And that's where I sort of fostered this love of teaching and of educating, and understanding how to kind of apply those communication skills I learned in college to this new realm. And then after I finished up in Korea, I was coming back to the US, and that was right around the time when coding boot camps were starting to become a thing, and people were excited talking about them, and this was sort of in the news. And so it seemed way too good to be true, and I think at the times in many ways it was, but it worked out for me. So I went to a coding boot camp, and I learned everything I needed to know to start building things with JavaScript, full stack JavaScript, and it was fun, and I loved it. And I loved the kind of, I think as developers, we understand that kind of like itch that scratches, and how kind of exciting it was to be able to build things with code. But I feel like that, it's easy in retrospect to see all the connections connecting, but I feel like all those pieces really fit nicely together for me and helped me realize that, like, I love teaching people, exposing people to new concepts. I like communicating with people, and I really like building with code. So here I am, doing exactly that.
We're so happy that you bring that background into Twilio, and you help us just get better at teaching and presenting and all those things. So we're super happy about your background. And you haven't let the like outside of Twilio, the live performance go all together. If I'm not mistaken, you're part of an improv group in San Francisco. So to celebrate your art, I wanted to do a little improv prompt, if that's okay with you. So
Whoa, all
Emily
right.
has not
I
seen
love
this
it.
before. Can you give us like a jingle or a rhyme or limerick for this event?
Oh,
Be short and
oh.
sweet, but yeah.
Whew. Okay, I'll just start up front by saying my rhyming skills are not at their best right now. So that's my caveat. Okay, about this event. So let's see. We've got AI. It's an easy rhyme. So maybe AI. Sky is a good rhyme for that. So, and we're talking about leveling up, going up. So let's say I'll make it a couplet. That's like a pretty easy task for myself. So we'll say level up with generative AI. Take your Twilio apps to the sky. How's that?
That's
Eh,
great.
all right, all
We'll
right.
get a
That's
trademark on that. We'll put some music to it. Speaking of putting music to it, when we actually do the level up next week, we're gonna have one more Twilio with us, the amazing Sam Agnew, who is a musician. He wasn't able to join us today, but he will be there next week at the level up. If you want to learn more about Sam, we did a level up next back in August with him and Craig. That was a really fun one. So go check that out. And you can find that on the Twilio Devs YouTube channel or anywhere you find YouTube videos, right? So Emily, as the host, can you give us a little preview of what's coming up in this level up that we're going to be doing next week?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we've already been talking about, AI is on our minds. It's on many folks' minds. And when I think about Twilio and AI, I kind of think about like what are the intersections there. You may have heard about customer AI, which is a broad set of Twilio features and products that kind of support personalization and more personalized communications with your customers, and this nice flywheel of understanding your customers and communicating with them better, and therefore understanding them better. So that's one place that Twilio is really the kind of connection to AI really makes sense. But I also think more simply, or maybe just like a bit more at a more basic level, thinking about how AI can integrate with the communications that you're doing across Twilio channels is really applicable and interesting and kind of easy place to start. So we wanted to do this level up to dive in a little bit and think about, well, how can we integrate AI with a couple of Twilio channels today, like just right now? And we obviously love APIs here. That's our bread and butter. And so I think we'll dive in next week and think about AI as an API interface. In this case, we'll use OpenAI, and how you can kind of connect that to Twilio Voice and to SendGrid email, Twilio SendGrid email. So we're going to dive in on those two channels. And we'll also talk a little bit about kind of, we talk a lot about it's important to understand what the right communication channel is for the right job, and making sure you're choosing the appropriate channel. But it's also important to understand when AI makes sense, when it makes sense to use generative AI in your communications. Sometimes it doesn't. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about prompt engineering and how you can kind of ensure that you're getting the right message. And we'll see how to build a couple little fun sort of applicable to the time of year applications that gives you some practical tools and tips for getting started with this today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share some building stuff with you. And just a quick
Yeah.
plug, since you mentioned that we're going to be using email and voice, this is a great chance to go check out some of our old level ups. The last level up with Sam Agnew was around email and creating marketing templates. We're going to be using some stuff from that. And there's also a level up with voice that Kaylin did, which was really great. Had one of my favorite ever level up moments where she managed to rickroll Craig, which is just, it's so
Cool.
special. So go check out
Creme de
those
la
old
creme.
level ups, twill.io/level ups, and you can see all the old ones. Those are two worth checking out. We'll be building on for this one.
Yeah. If you'll allow me, Alex, I want to turn the tables back briefly before we finish up. I'm curious. I've talked a lot about my experience with AI, or kind of my thoughts about it. But I know you're kind of a, dare I say, AI expert, or maybe at least we'll say you've been using it for a long time. What was your kind of first magic moment with AI?
Yeah, I've had like kind of the machine learning stuff in the back of my head for a while. I remember taking like one of the early Stanford classes that was like how to turn your data into insights, with machine learning. But I had the absolute pleasure of going back to grad school in 2019 and studying robotics and also artificial intelligence in there because those are, those two things are linked. And Chat GPT and the kind of generative AI that we think about wasn't totally where it is now. But the thing that I was so amazed by was the image detection and the like image classification algorithms. I was shocked when using TensorFlow. In like 5 minutes, I had a like full on image classification, object classification algorithm running on my laptop. Like it took maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It was amazing. And so I got that preview of like once you get these things built and trained, how easy it can be to use them. Specifically, the first time I tried to use it is for one of my projects. I had built a boat, and we were trying to program the boat to follow a paddleboarder. We never totally did it in the real world, just because like we didn't get out there. But in simulation, it worked, and it was able to follow people around, which is super cool. And it could detect if it was a paddleboarder or something else on the water. Um, so that was super cool. But seeing how kind of once you get these algorithms trained and the data's all in there, how much you can do with them so quickly was just super, super cool. I think that was the first time I was like, oh, this stuff is real.
That's very cool. Yeah, that accessibility I feel like is what's the newest thing is just like, oh, all these really nuanced and powerful models are now available to everybody, and that's awesome. Also, side note, I think it sounds like a genius choice to choose a course of study that allows you to go to the beach. So
It was so weird. I went to school in Arizona, ended up doing works with underwater robots. I never thought I would be like going to the desert to do aquatic robotics, but it worked out that way, and I'm so happy it did.
that's awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for interviewing me. This was
Yeah,
so fun.
yeah, and so we're so excited. Sign up for the level up next. We also have one more thing I wanted to mention. This is the last chance to apply for the Twilio AI Startup Searchlight. So this is we're looking for kind of the most innovative, interesting, exciting startups that are using AI and Twilio's communication channels together, marrying the two to create amazing experiences. We already have a bunch of applications, but we want yours. So if you're a startup that's doing that stuff, or if you know a startup that's doing that stuff, I think Brent just dropped the link in chat. Go check it out, twill.io/ai-startups. Apply, nominate your friends. It's a super cool program, and we're so excited to see all the cool things that people are building there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Well, exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all next week. And Alex, thanks again for talking with me.
yeah, my pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Bye.